Well, good morning. Welcome to Integrative Preparedness. How are you all today? I want to talk today about misplaced priorities. I saw an article in one of the scientific magazines about solar flares, solar winds, the dangers from those, and so I'm going to be getting back to that and talking about that because it was just a perfect example of how people think about things in kind of an inverted way, not concentrating on those things that are of real dangers, and concentrating instead on something that's a little more superficial. And those are real dangers. I mean, I wrote my books about that, right? Those are real dangers, but how people approach things can make all the difference in how well they are prepared for them. First off, welcome to everybody who's new. We've been getting a lot of new people, both on YouTube and on Patreon. It's great to have you here. Probably a couple of rules of the road are in order since we are getting a bunch of people. We are kind of a community here. I enjoy my interaction with my commenters and with my subscribers, both on YouTube and on Patreon. We have some really smart people. I always say that I have the smartest commenters in YouTube land, and that's true. And if you want proof of that, just read the comments on some of our videos. And I do try to get back to everybody. I read everyone, and I try to get back to everyone, and I try to at least acknowledge every. I'll be honest, there are some comments that I don't quite understand. So I would suggest, take a moment, make sure that you're making your point clearly so that I can understand it, and I'll be happy to, I do want to read it and respond if necessary. But we are a community here. We're a community that we are polite. This isn't something that I'm going to come on and yell and scream at you about the latest danger and how the world is going to hell and falling apart and all this kind of stuff. We know that, right? And our purpose is to talk about how to deal with it in a positive way. So we are a community. I take the first few minutes every video of making a couple of announcements. It's kind of like going to church, or it's kind of like, whatever, making a couple of announcements that are interesting to our community. I occasionally get very rude arguments from people who say, it took you 5 minutes to get to the point, for crying, and they even cuss and call me names, and of course I just delete them. So if that's not for you, if you don't want to be a part of our community, there are other places for you to go, and that's fine. We're not mad at you, okay? But if you're here in our community, be a part of our community and be nice and be polite. We do something here. I also have had people, oh my gracious, tell me how horrible I am about gulping my coffee. It's a kind of a joke around here now amongst the people, and they'll tell me how horrible I am for gulping my coffee. And I say, man, you're preparing for the end of the world, but it throws you off your stride for the way that I swallow my coffee. And so I call that the weenie weeding. If you're so much of a weenie that you can't stand that, you're going to have a tough time with the end of the world, buddy. So just go along with that. It's kind of a joke that we have. As a matter of fact, people have say that they do it along with me now, and that's great. That shows that people have a sense of humor, right? And I am coming out with Stonemont cups for you all to be able to get, and so you can gulp your coffee or whatever you want out of your own Stonemont cup along with me while we do this weenie weeding. And then I had somebody come up and tell me how horrible I was to make fun of people who had attacked me. I mean, attacked me in some ways horribly. You all don't see it because I delete it. That I was a terrible person or something by mocking them and then talking about Jesus later on. And then he wrote 5 or 6 paragraphs of scripture and everything about that, telling me how, Well, if you're watching, let me direct you to the Jesus admonition of the speck and the beam and the eye. Okay. Next, I just got done doing one of the hardest things. Oh yeah, I should say, Triple G made a statement. Thank you very much, Triple G, for bringing us to our appointment, to my attention. Many of you haven't known in the past that I have a church channel, Stonemont Church. Yes, it is my church. I am the pastor of the church. You all didn't know that. I know that. I am not the normal pastor that you might think. Okay. And I have not put a lot of stuff over there recently, but Triple G has convinced me to do that again. So for those of you who are interested in that, the link to our Stonemont Church channel is right down below in the information box and the pinned comment. We'd love to have you. I tell the truth. And I don't allow excuses or weeniness, okay? None of this weak Christianity of people just, well, you'll see if that's what you're interested in. Lastly, the last announcement, and now we've pretty much, all those people who can't stand that I haven't told them how the world's falling apart yet are gone. But the last one is I just got done starting probably the most difficult thing I've ever done, which is starting the reading of the audible book, the audible form of the books of the Stonemont series. People have asked me when are you going to be audible? When are you going to do audible? And I said, I don't know. I'm looking at it. I've looked at all sorts of things about it, which way I want to go, and I have decided. I looked at other people reading it and the different programs you can go through and all that. And I had a lot of people suggest, well, why don't you just read it? And so I have decided to do that. I remember that Rush Limbaugh once said when he did the audibles of his books, of those the Liberty series, he said it was the hardest thing he had ever done. And I thought, how could that be hard? You wrote the book, you're reading the book. How hard is that? He was right. This is the hardest thing I've ever done. It's twice as hard as writing the books. Because I realized when I just went in and I have done the first few tests, and none of them, I'm not satisfied with any of them. I've realized that it's not reading, it's performing. And I'm not really a performer. I'm a writer. I'm a preacher, but I'm not a performer. And I realized that when I played them back, I go, oh, I don't like that. I'm going to have to do better at this. Okay. So when I get done here, I'm going to go back and do it some more before I go out and work in the garden. And I will get better. Now, how we're going to do this is I'm going to put all of this on the Patreon. I'm going to read, some in segments. We'll be putting them on the Patreon channel on the Stonemont level. So for anybody that wants to hear the reading of the books, they can simply join us on the Patreon channel on the Stonemont level, which is $5 a month. And I will be putting up the installments of the book. Okay. I'm hoping to get the first one up within a week. I'm not yet satisfied with how I'm doing it, how I'm performing it. I even feel silly saying that, performing. But I get it now, okay? I'm starting to enjoy it, but I'm not yet satisfied with how well I'm doing it. So I will continue until I think I've got it, pretty good, okay? And I'll let you know when I start putting those up, and I'll put it up in a playlist over on Patreon in the Stonemont level. So that's that. Okay, now we're done with all the announcements that so many people hate. No, you all don't hate them, but here again, that's why I came back and I said, guys, we're a community here. We're like that, and I love that about it. So let's get back to the I sometimes have to write these things down because I get it. Okay, misplaced priorities. The article that I was referring to, and I'm going to post this on Patreon. so everybody can read it. They were talking about it, and I forget, it was from one of the science magazines. Here we go again. Okay, I'm ready to survive the end of the world, but I can't take your gulping. You think Jesus didn't mock people? If we're talking about being Christ-like. Read your Bible again. I was reading this science article, and the title was Solar Winds Will Disrupt, or we are in danger of having the internet come down because of solar winds. Okay, now they go into a great amount of detail about exactly what solar winds are, and it was all very interesting. Very good article. And it talks about the sun cycle. We're in I think now the 25th solar cycle. Solar cycles are 11 years long. Okay, and they will start, and they will grow, and then they will come down again. So you have times that are less active, more active, less active, and then it starts a new solar cycle. It seems that the 25th solar cycle is much more active than the 24th has been, or perhaps the 23rd. Anyway, we're in a very active solar cycle now, it seems. And that presents dangers. It presents dangers of, CMEs. Coronal mass ejections. That's what I wrote about in my books. But this goes in to explain a little bit more about solar winds. And here again, I will direct you to, if you're not with us on Patreon, you should be, because we have people who are extremely knowledgeable in the science of these things, and they post all of this stuff in the community section over there. And when I put this up, I know that a lot of our very top people are going to make good comments about it and explain it even further. And then I learn. Okay, I learn, and that helps. Yeah, and then you all can learn too. But they're talking all about how these could cause a disruption or even a collapse of the internet. Okay, now I'm sure that made everybody go, oh, And then, kind of hidden beneath that was, and it could take the grid down. It'll do this by taking down the grid. And I go, what? What? Do you see the problem there? They led in with what they thought was so important to people, apparently important to them. It's going to bring down the internet. Now, you know what? You can survive pretty well without the internet. I mean, I did it until I was, in my 50s or thereabouts. The world has survived thousands of years without the internet. But of course, we live in a world now that is so electricity and electronic dependent that the grid going down, yes, will result in probably a 90% die-off. 90% of the people will die, not because the internet went down and they couldn't get their Amazon order, but because the grid went down. And when I read that, I thought to myself, what a perfect illustration of how inverted many people have their priorities. Okay? I mean, the real message, I'm going to repeat this, not that you all need me to repeat it. I know you're smart. You're the smartest ones in YouTube land, right? Remember, I told you that. It's the grid going down that's the problem. But in order to maybe it was in their mind, the biggest problem to them was the internet going down. Because they live on the internet, I guess. But, if the internet goes down and I can't speak to you and you can't hear me, we're all going to survive depending on how well we've prepared, right? Survive or die depending on how well we have prepared. Not because you can't hear me and I can't talk to you. This is the problem And I think, we can all find areas that maybe we concentrate on more than others. I'll admit right now, I'm not a big comms guy. I don't, and there's reasons for that. First off, I don't know a lot about it. Other people do. But I have always been very leery. I don't want to put my faith in something that, electronics going down can affect. So I always, my baseline for preparedness is always no electricity, no electronics. So as a result of that, I don't concentrate very much at all in comms. Also, I've seen the dangerous side of comms, which I'll talk about over on Patreon. But there is a negative side to comms. Now, Lee over at Cold War Prepper does a lot of great shows about comms. He's a retired military intelligence guy, SIGINT, Signals Intelligence. So, he knows what he's talking about. And I find it very interesting to listen to him. And if you don't listen to him on Cold War Prepper, you should. Go over and tell him hi, tell him I sent you, and listen to him. But that's not my forte. So anyway, my thing here is that everybody will have a tendency to think of certain things that are of utmost importance or seem like utmost importance to them. Okay, and in this way, that's how some people get kind of imbalancedly, if that's a word. If it's not, I just made it up. Prepared. Okay, very strong in some areas, somewhat weak in other areas. And we've talked about this before. Very strong on the gun side, right? Didn't do much with the food. Very much on the food side, but didn't do much with the protection. Very much on bug out bags, but didn't really pay attention to, what's down the road with that. Very into defending the homestead, as it were, but haven't thought about going to another location. And it's easy to get trapped in that. And because we tend to play to our strengths, right? It feels good. It's kind of like, a fighter. He's got a good right hook, but his uppercut sucks. Well, he likes doing that right hook because he does it well, right? When he really should be paying attention to strengthening his weakness, without losing the strength of his strength. Does that make sense? So the danger that I see in this is that, and I see it everywhere, and as you can imagine, I know, and I am in contact with so many people in the preparedness world because of what I do for a living. And I can see it in almost every situation. In almost every person I talk to, there are certain things that they prioritize so much, to an extent, that they pay very little attention to other things that are important. And that's where you're going to get bitten. That's where the problem's going to arise. Because not only have you not prepared for it, you haven't really thought about it much. And the reason that people don't think about something is because, first off, they don't know much about it, and it's uncomfortable, and it's not exciting, and it's not, it's not sexy. But it is important. Some of those things are just the basics of tightening up your family. There are some who can't do that because their family's not into it. I get it. Tighten up. What can you do? What can you do to prepare for that? Okay. There are some who really haven't, who keep themselves apart from the social aspect of preparing, and there is a social aspect, make no mistake, because you need people. People are your, number one. After God and your family, other people are your strength. They can also be a danger. But that's the problem. That's the situation. It's a two-edged sword. People are your greatest danger. People are also your greatest earthly strength. And you need them. But if a person has kind of set themselves I don't like people, I don't trust people, I'm going to stay away, I'm antisocial, and we get, that's very common in the preparedness circles. Then they're not going to address that, and what they've done is they have misplaced their priorities. They've put their priorities like, I'm going to hide out, it's all about me, and all that, and they have not understood the importance of prioritizing their social skills and their ability to get along with others. So, I could go on for an hour probably bringing up different applications, different areas in which this would apply, but you don't need me to do that. What I would suggest is simply, look at your own life, look at your own preparedness plan, and make sure that your priorities are in the right place. Don't be worried about the internet going down when your real worry should be the grid going down, right? Like this science paper had. So think about that. Let us know, and I think other people. And again, I'm going back to the fact that we're a community here. Leave in the comments your own personal experiences. Have you had a situation to where you found that you concentrated so much on one thing that you left out something else? And have your priorities changed during the course of your preparedness journey? That's going to help a lot of people, especially all the new people. So again, to you new people, welcome. You have joined a community here. Be polite, be nice. Don't call people names. Don't criticize me for swallowing my coffee. Don't criticize me for mocking people who attack me, stuff like that. You're in my home. You're on my channel. It's like you're in my home. Okay. And it's not just me. I'm not saying this. Treat everybody nicely. Treat everybody nicely, because that's the way we do things here. Join us, as I said, over on Patreon. There's a lot that you'll get over there that you don't get on the YouTube channel. And a reminder that all of my videos are brought to you by my books, the Stonemont series, The Reversion, the Revival, the Renewal, An Appeal to Heaven, The Blessings of Freedom, and Hostages to Fortune. And yes, I'm working busily on number 7. They're available both on Amazon in paperback or Kindle. The link is down below in the information section and a pinned comment, or you can get them straight from me through our website at stonemont.us. And you can order them right there, and there's a place to put in. Would you like Steve to sign it? Would you want him to autograph it? You want him to write a message in there, happy birthday, Aunt Jenny, or whatever, Happy to do it. Love to do that, because I love the relationship that I have with my readers, as I love the relationship that I have with my viewers. So you all have a good day. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. Get out there and do something today. Check your priorities. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.